Good evening, everyone. My name is Jamie Womack Williams. I'm the State Education's Issues Director for the Texas AFT's Bridges Institute for Professional Development. This evening, we have Social Secrets. Rasheda Williams is back with us. She's with Empowered Flower Girl, and she is going to walk us through all of the ins and outs of social media and things that we should be aware of as educators, parents, grandparents. And so I'm really excited about this. So hopefully we'll be able to walk away with new knowledge about social media and its role it plays in the students that we teach or the children that we live with. Hannah Garcia is on tonight, as well as myself. If you have any tech issues, you can send us a message. And I do also check my email just in case if you're having issues staying in or having other tech issues, you can shoot me an email and I will help you out. Other than that, I will turn it over to you, Rasheda. Thank you.
Yes, and thank you so much, Jamie. I definitely appreciate the opportunity to be able to share with you on one of my favorite topics, okay, social media. Many of us are using social media. Some of us are logging in through our smartphones, others through our laptops, but it's definitely a timely topic and has been for the past decade or so. And we will be delving into that. So I'd like to thank everyone for joining us this evening for Social Secrets, what parents and educators should know. Now, just a few things before we get started. I hope that you all have brought an open mind as well as your enthusiasm tonight, because I definitely want this to be interactive. There's a lot that we will be covering over the next hour and a half, and you'll also have an opportunity to ask any questions you may have. So feel free to utilize the chat area for questions, but also since this is interactive, I want you to feel free to utilize your cameras, okay? I want to see your beautiful smiling faces because that helps me get to know you better and to really understand what you may be experiencing, as well as, to have that interaction, right? Many of us are experiencing Zoom fatigue, so staring at the screen all day can be a little tiresome, right? But we want to keep that energy going. So if you want to ask your question or answer questions, because again, it's going to be interactive. If you want to answer questions with your camera on, that's perfectly fine. But I do ask when you're not speaking, if you would kindly, please keep yourselves on mute to avoid any additional background noise. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Today's topic is social secrets, again, what parents and educators should know. So you're in the right place if you want to learn about how young people are using social media, right? Where they are online, and how we as parents, caregivers, mentors, and relatives can keep the young people that we love safe, smart, and kind online. And I'm pretty sure you'll learn some tips to keep yourself safe, smart, and kind online. So momentarily, I am going to share my screen. But again, definitely utilize a chat. Let me know where you're from and what you want to get out of today's session. I know that some of you may have questions about specific apps. There's a lot of information to cover. We may not have the opportunity to go into specifics of the apps in terms of how we're going to change all of the settings. That could be a 4-hour workshop in of itself, right? But I will give an overview of some of the top apps that young people are using and how we can help them as they explore the World Wide Web, which I'm calling the Wild Wild West, the Wild Wild West of the World Wide Web. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that you can see the presentation. Okay, everyone can see that okay? Okay, great. So you may see that there are, on the screen here, you may see that there are some texting acronyms. Okay, so just take a look at a few of those, right? I'll be coming back to that. Remember, it's going to be interactive, so we're going to have a little fun here. We will be covering some heavier subject matter, but I also want us to have fun as well as be engaged. So my name is Rasheda Kamaria Williams, and I am the Chief Empowering Officer for Empowered Flower Girl. And I am also a mentor, author, and youth advocate. And the title of mentor and youth advocate are two of the most important in my life. I have a passion for helping young people to live above life's drama so that they can make a powerful difference in the world. I founded Empowered Flower Girl back in 2010. So we celebrated our 10-year anniversary last year, and it has been great. We want to help young people to live above life's drama so that they can make a powerful difference in their communities and in the world. And they do encounter some drama, which we will be talking about today, but there's also numerous opportunities for them to reach their full potential. Just a little bit of background about my experience, especially in media, which is, again, something that I'm very passionate about. I've worked in education communications for over 15 years now, actually closer to 20. My experience is mostly in education communications from K-12 and higher ed, but I also definitely have worked in the field of journalism. So I got my degree in journalism from the Wayne State University Journalism Institute for Media Diversity. And I also had the opportunity to work for my alma mater in the communications department. And I'll tell you, a lot of what we did in my department, which was marketing communications, a lot of what we did was coordinate the social media, manage the social media accounts. And there were some interesting things, as you can imagine, that we would see online, see our students posting about, as well as information that they were sharing. They use it as a customer service tool to let us know when we needed to come and clean up the dorms, but they will also let us know that if there was something that was happening, something that we needed to be aware of for us to, come out. And I definitely think that social media can be a great tool, but for our young people, we definitely have to teach them about digital responsibility. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I am going to briefly just stop sharing my video here because I definitely want to give you my full undivided attention. And I sometimes using Zoom, you can get a little distracted there. But today's agenda, we are going to cover what parents and educators should know about social media, right? But we're also going to explore what our teens may not want us to know, teens as well as children, right? So I'm going to let you in on a few secrets, if you will, okay? And we're also going to explore what you can do to keep them safe, smart, and kind online. I definitely encourage you to take notes, to engage, as well as ask questions. And again, you can do that by showing us your lovely face. If you want to go on camera, that's perfectly fine. If not, that's okay as well. However, if you feel comfortable going on camera, that's great. If not, that's perfectly fine. Sometimes I'm not camera ready either, right? It's perfectly okay. But if you have questions, also you can utilize the chat area as well, because we will be monitoring it. One of the reasons why we are exploring social media today is because it's ever evolving and ever expanding. I learned from Statista, which is where you'll see a lot of the statistics that I'll be sharing today. They come from Statista, okay? And Statista gives data. They monitor social media use across the world, and then they break down, they give a macro as well as a micro view of social media and how people around the globe are consuming it. And we know outside of search engines like Google, right, social media use is one of the most popular online activities. So there are billions, billions with a B. There are billions of people worldwide using social media. And that number is projected to increase to over 4 billion by the year 2025. So that means people of all ages, all backgrounds around the world are definitely going to be engaged online. Those people who are not even born yet, right? Many of us, we have children or young relatives who are online on social media and they're like 2 or 3, right? So there's people who aren't even born yet who will be soon getting social media accounts. So I have a question for you. Okay, this is interaction time. All right, again, if you're brave, feel free to share and interact with us. Again, you can use your camera, you can unmute yourself, that's fine. But I want to know, where are you online? Okay, so the questions are, what are your top 3 social media networks? What are the top 3 social media networks that you use regularly? Now, I'm not talking about the one that you downloaded on your phone that you're currently not using or have never used, right? But the ones that you're active on, the top 3. And roughly estimate, how often are you online? So about how many hours are you online? So I want to give you an opportunity to think about that. And if anyone wants to share, feel free, just let us know your name, where you're from, and the answers to those questions. What are your top 3 social media networks that you use regularly, and how often are you online? So if there are any brave souls, you can unmute yourself. Anyone want to share, or you can raise your hand. Okay, so someone, I'm looking at the chat, and Carrie said she's on Facebook about an hour a day. Okay, she checks in the morning and the evening. Okay, someone else wrote Facebook as well. They're on there for about 1 to 5 hours per week. Okay, so moderate use. Anyone want to go on camera and share?
I'll go, Rasheda. I actually, really just Facebook is the only one I'm active on. I do have Twitter and I do have Instagram, but Twitter is mainly just for the Bridges Institute, where I tweet stuff over there, but not on my personal profile. And Instagram just occasionally. On Facebook, as those of you who are friends with me on Facebook know, I love to post goat videos. So,
wait a minute, goat videos?
yes, I have 3 goats that everyone loves. They've been enlightening throughout this past year of watching them grow. And so, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I'll have to check those out. Hopefully you share those publicly so I could take a look.
Yes, I do. Yes, you can look at them. Yeah.
Okay, Coretta said that she's actually trying to move to Twitter. Okay, so that's interesting. I'm just curious, Coretta, where are you trying to move to Twitter from? Are you trying to go from Facebook to Twitter, Instagram to Twitter?
I'm trying to go from Facebook to Twitter.
Okay,
so I do a lot of. I'm sorry, say that again.
Are you just tired of Facebook, or are you just looking for something new?
It's too it's too all consuming. That rabbit hole is real. And so I don't want to get, caught up in that. I don't like the fact that people can see when you're online. You may only go on to look for one thing. Let's say you're trying to look for something, work related or union related. And you do that, and people are like, oh, she didn't like my post. And I'm like, oh God, it's not even personal like that,
Exactly. So, look, and we're going to talk more about likes and some things you can do about that later in this presentation. So yeah, well, good luck with the migration from Facebook to Twitter. Sometimes there's drama on Twitter as well, but it's less in your face. And I think that it may be a relief for you to navigate to Twitter. So thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So someone said, Sheila said she's continuously logged into Facebook. And she's an administrator and a moderator for a few different groups. And I definitely love using Facebook for Facebook groups. And she also mentioned that, okay, she doesn't log into MeWe every day, but she should. Okay, well, I get it. There's so much that we have going on in our lives, right? There's a lot that we're doing, and then we're trying to be active online. So it can be a lot. It could be overwhelming. And I know so many people are just saying, you know what, I'm done. I've had enough. However, I do want to definitely recommend that you stick around, especially if you have children. Okay, so you may not want to delete all your social media accounts, especially if you have children in your home, or if you are an educator and you have children in your classrooms who are on social media. So we found out where the adults are. So now we want to find out where the teens are. So most of the adults said Facebook or Twitter. I know for me personally, I utilize my top three are Facebook, especially for the groups, as well as LinkedIn. I know many of you probably use LinkedIn in your profession, right, to network, to find jobs, to place job opportunities, to connect with colleagues. So I love LinkedIn, and I think LinkedIn is so underutilized, and it could be a great resource for adults, but as well as young people, especially those who are in college. And also Instagram. I'm starting to use Instagram more, Instagram video. And I must say, I'm not as afraid of Instagram anymore as I used to be the more I use it. But also beyond the traditional social media networks, I also use WhatsApp. So there's messaging apps that many of us and our children are using. So we'll talk about a few of the differences with the social media networks, and then there's also apps. So I mostly use WhatsApp Messenger to connect with my friends that live overseas. So it's a great way for us to connect and be able to video message each other, without the cost of having an international calling plan. So adults on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn. Okay, the kids are calling us boring for that, right? They're like, no, we are not on Facebook. Research is showing that, kids for the past 5 or more years have been exiting, a mass exodus of young people from Facebook. Why? Well, because we're on there, because parents are on there. They're like, no, thank you. So I want to know, in your experience, or maybe you could take a guess, where are your kids or your students online?
On Clubhouse.
On Clubhouse, yes, 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 definitely. For those iPhone users, yep, they're on Clubhouse. I think Android said they were going to toy around with possibly getting Clubhouse there, but we'll see. Maybe they'll have their own version. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. Yep, Clubhouse. Anyone else want to share where their children or students are, or young people in their lives, where they think they are online?
And Twitter. Twitter is very, it's where they all are. I would say Twitter and Clubhouse.
Twitter and
Instagram, but Twitter first. Well, Clubhouse, Twitter, Instagram.
Okay, gotcha.
Oh, and Snapchat. I forgot about that
one. Yeah, thanks, Jessica. And Snapchat. Okay, anyone have anything different? Any other places that they think the young people are? Okay, I'm looking at the chat. I didn't see anyone post anything. So, okay. So you mentioned Snapchat, Twitter, Clubhouse, Instagram, and the answer is yes. Okay, the answer is yes to all of those. However, there's like the Trinity now of social media networks for young people. And the other question that I did pose is how often they are online each day. So many of the adults said, 1 to 2 hours. That was pretty standard when I was looking in the chat. Many adults said that they were on for 1 to 2 hours. Someone said 1 to 5. Me personally, it's kind of what I do for a living. So I'm on there for 5 to 7 hours a day. Trust me, I don't necessarily want to be on there for 5 to 7 hours a day, but I am. So I'm looking here and, Sheila said her daughter downloaded Discord, Tumblr, Amino. Yeah, okay, YOLO and Snapchat. So there are some other ones, right? TikTok, yes, yeah. TikTok and surprisingly Reddit. Oh my gosh, Reddit. Young people love Reddit, okay? Adults do as well, right? There's a lot of influencers on Reddit. Influencers on Reddit can help us transform the financial industry, right? Can get people to buying stocks or selling stocks, right? We witnessed that recently with Robinhood and the GameStop whole fiasco or controversy. Helped some people, and then some people got in trouble, right? But someone else said YouTube. Yes, YouTube, TikTok. Okay, so thank you all for sharing in the chat. I appreciate that. So the Trinity Okay, what I call the Trinity of social media. Now, where the teens are, they're on Snapchat. Yes, if you said Snapchat, you are correct. If you mentioned TikTok, you are also correct. And Instagram, you are correct as well, right? They're there. Those are the top three. Every site that you all mentioned, even if they're not in this top three, uh, young people are on social media networks. And there it seems like there's a new one popping up every day. I know we can all feel a little overwhelmed because there are so many. I'm only active on about 5 of them, right? About 5 social media apps, but there are dozens upon dozens of social media apps that are out there. And I know sometimes it can seem overwhelming to try to keep up with it all. Now, one thing I do recommend so that you do not have social media fatigue, even if you aren't actively involved on the social media apps. Again, if you have children or you are taking care of or raising children, you may want to definitely think about having an account, especially the ones that they're actively using. Also, to monitor their online interactions, because as we know, their online interactions are leading to offline drama. Okay, so a lot of what's happening online spills over into classrooms as well as into communities. And this is not just happening here in the United States, it's happening all over the world. Now, some of you may be surprised that on average, young people are spending right around 7 hours, believe it or not. They're spending right around 7 hours a day on average on social media. And that's not including their, it's not including their education. So many of us, of course, are doing homeschooling. So outside of homeschooling, many children are spending 7 hours. And some of you may say, well, what? How do they get that much time? Some of them, when you say good night, some of them don't turn off their phones. Others, some parents say, hey, I'm taking the phone before bedtime. I've known parents to say, I lock up my kids' phones at night so they can get the proper amount of sleep. Because research is showing that the increased amount of screen time is negatively impacting young people. And not in ways that you may think. It's interrupting their sleep. Okay, all this blue screen, this screen shining in their faces, all types of night, getting interrupted by notifications. Yes, young people are having a hard time staying focused and staying asleep because they have their phones so easily accessible. So I know I mentioned that we were going to get an overview of some of the top social media apps. Because of time, we just have an hour and a half and then question time today, less than 2 hours here together. I just want to make sure that we're covering all of the content that we need to cover. But I do kind of want to give an overview, a broad overview of the social media apps that young people are using. Okay, and so Snapchat, okay, the the ghost, I'll be honest, when I first saw the Snapchat logo, I thought it was an egg. I don't know why. It's like, okay, why is their logo an egg? But anyway, Snapchat has been around for a while. A lot of people don't realize how long Snapchat has actually been on the market and out there, over a decade now, right? And what people like about Snapchat is that, you can use the pictures and the messages, right? And they're only available for a short time before you're not able to access them, or at least that's what people think. I have known some youth as well as adults who thought, oh, they could post anything they want, all kind of illicit content. They could post inappropriate photos and no one would ever know. But, there's always some way around it, right? This information does get recorded and we give up a lot of our rights when we sign the agreements to download these apps. So many young people don't realize that, yes, if you're distributing illicit material, hate speech, those sorts of things, yes, it can be used against you. And they are finding that there are many who are utilizing these sites to actually blackmail our children. It's an unfortunate thing, but I'll be talking a little later about sextortion and how that has impacted some young people through social media. So again, we are going to be covering some heavy subject matter here. So I do want to give a disclaimer. I'd like to give a trigger warning because in some of our conversations, we will be discussing self-harm as well as suicide, because we know that that is a result of some young people's internet use, right? We know that some young people have been cyberbullied and stalked, and sextortion has unfortunately become a trend, and mostly girls and young women have been victimized. Okay, girls and young women around the world. And I'll be explaining a little more about that later. But I just want to let you know that, you know, we will be covering some of these topics while, you know, we are going to have fun and be interactive. I just know that there are some things that parents and educators should definitely know, and we should definitely be aware of. Okay, so Snapchat was released almost a decade ago, believe it or not. And currently, there are just over 400 million active monthly users. A lot of the statistics, they break down social media use according to daily and monthly use. And so for the purposes of social secrets, we're looking at active monthly users, okay? Now, the good thing about Snapchat, because people do have privacy concerns, you can set or change your settings to only allow friends to send snaps, because the concern that a lot of parents have when they're sending these messages or sending these videos or photos is that anyone out there can, you know, send you a snap. And what does that mean for young people? Well, you know, some creep online sending your child inappropriate photos and messages, but you can change those settings to allow only friends or people that you may know to send those snaps. And again, there are parental controls. I'll be sharing some resources with you through an organization that I really love. It's my go-to organization when I'm trying to learn about new social media apps or other forms of media like video games or even books, right? It's called Common Sense Media. And they give amazing overviews, give you ratings of these apps. So I'll be sharing their website and additional information about them. So in your notes, make sure you write down Common Sense Media. So TikTok. TikTok has definitely emerged as one of the top social media networks during the pandemic. And TikTok has actually been around for a while. Many people may know that it was started in China. And, you know, it's been all the rage in China. And then all of a sudden, it just became this global phenomenon, right? They merged with Musical.ly. Now, my goddaughter, oh my gosh, she loves Musical.ly. And she would post videos all the time of herself, you know, pantomiming songs and doing like karaoke and dancing. And I would see this and I'm like, what's the big deal? Like, who cares? But, but it's a lot of fun, right? You know, sometimes it could be a little annoying when we see these TikTok challenges. Some people, you know, theirs are fails. We see some of these TikTok challenges and some of them are really outrageous. However, it's a lot of fun for young people. You can make these short form videos, 15 seconds to a minute. Many of the videos are like dance challenges, and some people use it for comedy, but also others, like many of us who are on here today, may use it for educational purposes or business purposes. And TikTok is definitely emerging as a top social network. In fact, over 500 million people, 689 million active monthly users. Okay, but just a note to self, thankfully, TikTok also has a family safe mode so that, you know, you can protect your child's interactions as well as yourself. So not everything that you post has to be shared everywhere, right? So it's a good idea to definitely check these settings, which I'll be talking about in just a moment. And finally, Instagram. Many of us use Instagram. I use it for business. I use it for interacting as well as learning about what other people are up to in the world. In my industry, I work with youth and youth advocates, so it helps me to be on Instagram. IGTV, I love watching the videos that people put together when they go live on Instagram. It's very informative, very educational, and I enjoy it. Sometimes I just enjoy some of the silliness of it, right? We all need a break every now and then, right? And Instagram definitely provides you an escape here and there, so you're posting photos and videos through Instagram. Now keep in mind that some young people actually create fake Instagram accounts. Some of you may have heard of this, and some of you may be familiar with Finsta. Okay, so keep that in mind, that sometimes your child's Instagram, and I'll say Instagram in air quotes, may not really be their Instagram account, maybe Finsta. Okay, they want to keep it a secret from you, right? So they're not technically showing you what they may be using. Okay, now you may also know that Instagram was acquired by Facebook. And that happened all the way back in 2012. And both Facebook and Instagram have over 1 billion active monthly users. So that's a lot of people around the world who have accounts, right? And they're active. We're not saying people who just downloaded the app and just, went away and just said, forget it, I'm never going back, right? These are active users. But fortunately, you can set your accounts to private. So you and your child's, both of your accounts can be set to private. Now mine is public. I'll be honest, I deleted my I've deleted my personal Instagram account 2 years ago, just because I was overwhelmed. I didn't see a need for it since I was on Facebook and Twitter, but I use it for Empowered Flower Girl. And I must say, that definitely helps eliminate some of the social media fatigue that we all may face. But I love using Instagram as well for educational purposes and occasionally entertainment purposes. So I want us to explore how we can be safe online. And as I mentioned, we need to check our settings. Okay, so you can make many of these apps private. And sometimes even if you have a Facebook account, so I heard a lot of people mention that they're on Facebook, they're using Facebook. Yes, and many of us may have our accounts set to private. Some people may have their accounts set to public, but you can always go into your settings, okay? And occasionally with your post, if you have your account set to where only your friends can see it and not the public, some of your posts you can make public. So when I want to share educational information or information about scholarships or grant opportunities, I'll make that information public. So those who may not be my Facebook friends, they can see that information. So you can definitely share information with broader audiences. But for those of you who want to keep things a little more private, just make sure you check your and your child's settings. And one of the most important settings that I will definitely recommend that you check and recheck is the location settings. This is vitally important. So my question to you is, have you disabled your and your child's location settings? Okay, hopefully you have. I learned a valuable lesson about this, okay, back in 2013. Many of us use social media to comment and engage. And I'm no different. I'm passionate about a lot of topics. And I remember I was in a group online and I made a comment. Someone posted something that I thought was a little ridiculous and I disagreed with it. And I think that, I thought that it was, for public discourse. I thought that, people posted the topic for others to engage and to comment. And we all know how that can be, right? Sometimes we see comments and they're very cringeworthy. Some are hateful. Some are just downright mean and inappropriate. I didn't think my comment was mean or inappropriate. I was just saying that I disagreed. And I actually, I'll be honest, I did say that I thought the topic was silly. Okay, I only use the word silly. I said, oh, I think this is a silly topic. Why are we even exploring this? Why are we even talking about this? Well, somebody, in fact, somebodies did not appreciate that. And they responded back. I can't even, I can't even say today what they said to me, some of the vile comments that I received. These were young women who responded so viciously to me. They were a lot younger than me. They were in their early 20s. At least they looked like they were in their early 20s. They responded to me very negatively. And what didn't I do that day of all days? I had forgotten to check my location settings. Now, the interesting thing about some of these social media sites back in the early days, when you would do updates, sometimes it would reset your settings. And uh-oh, my location settings were reset and my location was public. And I was actually at home. Thankfully, it didn't ping my exact address, but it did ping the intersection where I lived. And one of the young ladies messaged me and said, oh, you're talking sugar honey iced tea? Okay, I know where you live. Yeah, that was my surprise too. I'm pretty sure some of you are like, what? Yes, I received threatening messages online because of a comment that I made. I had a disagreement, a public disagreement with someone, and they threatened to come to my house. I know, I called their bluff. I knew it wasn't real, but I did let them know. I said, oh, okay, you're gonna come to my house. Well, you do know that I work with a few government agencies and cyberbullying and cyber stalking task force. And I will have you know that this information that you're sharing will be shared with your local authorities. And of course, she deleted that comment and blocked me. So I was saved there. But what do you think I did after that? I hurried up and changed my location settings. So note to self, right? Make sure that your location settings, make sure that they're off if you do not want potential cyber bullies and cyber stalkers to know where you are at all times. Occasionally, I will make a review if I've checked out a nice restaurant. How many of us, will check out a nice restaurant or go somewhere like on vacation and want to check? How many of us have wanted to share where we were, some fabulous restaurant or a fabulous vacation spot that we've checked out? We want to give a shout out to these local businesses or even national businesses that we support about all their glory, right? And we'll post where we are. But just think about that, okay? Just think about when you're posting that information. A lot of times I will post after I've left. So I think some people as well who are listening in now, you probably do that as well, right? You'll wait until you left that location just in case you don't want to have any surprise visitors, right? And this is important for our children because many children, some children are young as 8 and 9 years old, or maybe even younger, trying to navigate social media. It's a lot of responsibility for a child to have. And some of them, while they may be savvy and in technology, they may not know how to change their settings. And some young people are posting TMI, way too much information. I call this the too much information age because we are sharing a lot of information, but it's vitally important that we make sure we know what we're sharing. Okay, so definitely check and recheck your settings. And one of the reasons why we definitely need to check on our children and the children that we love and care about is because there's some dangers online that we all are very aware of. And I like to call this section Browser Beware, because there are people who are online posing as your children's friends. They could be posing as relatives, right? They're online predators who watch our children's moves. I have known young people, bless their hearts, they didn't realize what they were doing, but they would post on social media, hey, I'm a student at such and such school. They'll say the name of their school, their age, their grade, giving specific details about themselves. And while we're not thinking that way, right? We're not intending to do harm to our children and those in our communities, but there are people out there who are. And we'll see that information and connect that. We'll say, oh, okay, this kid goes to this particular school. We know what time they get out of school. Maybe we might want to check them out. I delivered a TED Talk a few years ago. And the topic was on how mentoring makes a difference. But I talked about 3 groups that were connecting with our young people and being tech savvy. So I hear a lot of adults who resist technology. And I hear them say, you know what, I don't want to be bothered. I don't feel like being on social media. It's too much drama. I'd rather not deal with it. But you know who is determined and who will utilize the technology? Gangs. Gangs are using social media to recruit new members. Gangs and also hate groups. Gangs like MS-13, as well as the Aryan Brotherhood and the Bloods and the Crips. Yes, I know, a throwback, right? Some of you are probably like, Bloods and the Crips, they still exist? Yes, they're like a franchise. They're all over the country, okay? And many of these gangs are using social media to recruit new members. And it's not just gangs, terrorist groups. Believe it or not, terrorist organizations use social media to recruit young people. I spoke about 2 young women in the Minneapolis area who were recruited online. They were radicalized, and believe it or not, they had been in communication with members of ISIS and actually bought airline tickets to meet them. They were going to go to Turkey, but thankfully their efforts were thwarted when they got to Germany. They were intercepted by the authorities. Their parents had said, oh, our daughters have gone missing. We believe that they were on their way to Turkey. And during a connection, they were apprehended and they were sent back home. They were questioned and they were sent back home. But yes, young people, girls, 2 teenage girls recruited by ISIS. And some people think, well, that won't happen to my child, right? But there's also another group that is connecting with our children online. And that would be pimps and traffickers. So I want parents to definitely be aware that pimps and traffickers, as well as gangs and other predators, right? They are connecting with our young people. So many young people go missing because they connected with someone online. They may be using apps that you're not aware of. Now, most of us have heard of the dating app Tinder. Some of us may have used Tinder, right? But it's supposed to be for adults. But the makers of that app don't really do a lot in terms of verifying a person's age. So your 13-year-old niece or your 16-year-old nephew may be using Tinder, to meet potential dates. And some of them think, okay, well, there's other kids my age on Tinder, but typically it isn't. You may have heard stories about young people thinking they were chatting, even online gaming, right? It's not just dating apps, but even online gaming can pose some dangers. There's predators at play in online gaming that reach out and try to connect with our children and the young people in our lives. So a lot of people aren't really thinking about that when their kids are playing Fortnite or other games, right? When they're engaging online, which again, they're on there for about 7 hours a day or more, according to statistics. They might not be aware that they're chatting with an adult. Your daughter may think that she's engaging with another 14-year-old girl, but in reality could be a 30-year-old man. Yeah, who is attempting to lure her to meet up. And our young people, they can be vulnerable at this age. No matter how much we talk to them about stranger danger, no matter how much we try to really explain to them that things can be a little dangerous online, right? We'll talk to them about this. This is very, very serious. And I want young people to be aware and realize, that this trafficking industry, it is $1 billion industry, okay? And young people, unfortunately, are falling victim to it. And it's happening in our neighborhoods. It's happening in our communities. And it could be happening right under our noses, okay? Many young people don't realize this. And while online predators are a huge concern, we also have to look at identity thieves, okay? People use young children's information to even open accounts, to open utility accounts, to open credit card accounts, to use their social security numbers. So we have to make sure that our children aren't sharing too much information, and also that we aren't sharing too much information online to become victims of identity theft, as well as people stealing our entire identities and posing as someone else. So I've seen that happen before as well, where people will take your photos and take your whole online persona and start profiles and accounts. That happens as well. And of course, cyberbullies, because we are definitely going to speak more about cyberbullies. Cyberbullying has definitely increased dramatically during the pandemic. And girls actually are 3 times more likely than boys to be victims of cyberbullying as well as online abuse. I will be sharing a resource as well to help our girls through, but an organization called Plan International, they found that 58% of girls reported experiencing online harassment and or abuse. And part of that abuse is what I mentioned earlier today, sextortion. It is very insidious what's happening to some of our girls online. And many of them who have fallen victim to this, they'll explain to you and let you know that, it started out just as a conversation with someone they met online, someone who commented on the photo, someone who said, you're beautiful and, let's connect, let's talk more. And then these predators, again, they prey on our children and know that they're at that age and stage where they're trying to figure out who they are and where they want to be, right? So they sometimes are open to having conversations with people they may not know, but who seem familiar, who they build a relationship with, or they think they're building a relationship with online. So these people may ask your children for photos. They may start off as innocent photos. Hey, can you share a picture of yourself? I'd like to see what you look like. They share a seemingly innocent photo, but then it becomes more sinister, and they're asked to send pictures of body parts, or they're asked to send videos of themselves. And then these predators will use that content against our young people. One of the most, one of the saddest and the most disturbing incidences of this happened to a young lady in Canada. Her name was Amanda Todd, and you can look up her story. I won't go into too much detail about it, but she was a victim of sextortion. This man was halfway around the world, and he told her to send him photos, and she started sending photos because she thought she was having a relationship with this person. She thought it was someone she could trust, but then he flipped things on her and said that if she didn't keep sending him photos, that he would tell her mom or he would share it with the school. And she was already experiencing some of the social exclusion at school. She was also experiencing some of the relational aggression and the mean girl behavior from other girls. So she definitely didn't want that to happen. So he threatened to share these photos if she didn't continue to share more photos. That happens more often than we think. And whether it's sharing more photos or exchanging money, yes, some of these people will say, hey, if you don't give me what I need, if you don't give me the money, I'll share these inappropriate photos with the world. So this is happening to our young people, and they're experiencing emotional turmoil. And, you know, there's just so much drama that they face. But there are opportunities, again, there are opportunities for them to use the internet, to use these social networks for good. And we will be explaining that. But I thought that I should definitely talk about this because I think it's vitally important for us to discuss these things because it's happening in communities, not just big cities. It's happening in small towns. It's happening in rural areas. It's happening in the suburbs. All around the world, this is happening to our children and adults. So we want to make sure that they're safe, okay? Someone did ask, how safe are gaming sites? Overall, they can be safe. Again, you really have to look at the parental controls, but some young people report experiencing inappropriate content being sent to them by adults and other young people. So sometimes young people do get into trouble, right? Young people do get into trouble sharing inappropriate content with one another. I had to go to a middle school, in fact, a few years ago, and that inspired our assembly. Myself and one of my business partners, Smiley, the hip hop clown, we host an assembly called Be Safe, Be Smart, Be Kind Online. It's an assembly all about digital citizenship and helping young people to navigate social media and how to use it for good. And we get young people hyped up. We do a whole pep rally and we get them dancing, the latest social media dance crazes. Smiley is a phenomenal dancer, but we get young people moving and going, but then we talk to them about how they're using social media and the stranger danger, right? We mostly work with middle school students because this is the group. The middle school students are the ones that are really online and sometimes not aware that they're sharing inappropriate or illegal content. And that's why we were actually asked to come to one of these schools here in Michigan the first time because students were sharing what is deemed pornographic content. Students were sharing videos of another student performing a sex act on another student. And the kids didn't even realize, wow, if I shared this, I could face charges of child pornography possession. And a lot of young people do not know that, and they're not educated on that. And while I think some of the laws are ridiculous and absurd because they are minors themselves, they have to be aware of what they're posting online. So that's why we want them to be safe and we want them to be smart. we want them to definitely be smart online, okay? Again, whether they're on social media networks or whether they're on their favorite games, right? They're playing the PlayStation, they're playing these games. We want them to be safe. And I've heard of young people, some students that I worked with in this high school program at my alma mater, Wayne State University. They're in a high school program in conjunction with the College of Education there. And they did an entire presentation exploring how they had experienced racism and hate speech on online gaming. So just, just be aware of what's going on. Not every young person has these adverse experiences, through online gaming. Some have never had negative experiences at all, but the potential is there. Okay, so we just want to keep you alert and aware of that. Okay, so some kids, some students may call it snooping, right? When you want their passwords. Many parents have told me, yes, I have my kids' passwords to everything on their phone. My kids don't get to lock their phone. Nope. I have their password to their phone. I have the password to their social media accounts. Some kids are like, oh, mom, dad, you're snooping. Get about my business, right? Can I have a life? I'm independent. Why do you need to be all up in my business, right? We've heard that before from our kids and our young relatives and even our students, right? They may call it snooping. In my opinion, it's proactive parenting, right? Or being a proactive mentor, just being concerned about them and their safety. Now, there was a report that Wayne State University put out. They did an extensive report of young people's social media use, and the College of Nursing even did a separate report on sexting, just sexting by itself, and what's happening there. And that's a whole other topic. We can do another workshop on just that alone and some of the inappropriate content that is being shared. But they did an extensive report looking at how young people were using social media. And several of the students who were surveyed reported that they would behave differently if they thought their parents or other important adults in their lives would find out. So just know that being a proactive parent is a good thing. And I am definitely proud of the parents and the caregivers and the teachers and the counselors who are on today's workshop. You are being proactive. And some of these things we definitely know that the young folks don't want us to know, but I'm happy to let you in on some of these secrets, okay? All right, so to lighten the mood a little bit, because I know we just covered a lot of heavy subject matter, but I just want to lighten the mood just a little bit, okay? So who wants to play a game? All right, I do. Okay, so it's time to play a game. I am excited to play a game with you. This game is called, Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? Online. Okay, so we want to find out, are you smarter than a fifth grader online? Okay, so we're going to look at these texting acronyms, right, or text talk. Okay, there's a few apps out there. Don't cheat, don't go to those apps and look and see, right? But just looking at these, okay, give you a few seconds to look at all of them. Okay, there are 10 of them. All right, so I see someone has already started. Okay, you guys are excited in the chat. All right, Tammy got a point for laugh out loud. Yes, one is laugh out loud, but look at them all. Is there anyone who thinks that they know at least half of them? Maybe someone knows all of them? Anyone want to take a guess? Is there someone who thinks they know all of these? Okay, if you think you know all of them. Yeah, okay, yeah, I see some people that are active in the chat. Okay, oh, Jamie. Jamie knows 8, okay. Anyone know more than Jamie? Okay, not 9 out of 10. Okay, Anyone know 10 out of 10? Someone else. Okay, got another 9 out of 9. Okay, or 9 out of 10. All right, so any of you brave souls, anyone want to unmute themselves? Maybe share? Anyone who knows 10 out of 10 or at least 9 out of 10 want to share? Who's that? Are you a brave soul? Okay, Tammy. You know them all?
I'm not sure about the STFU, but the other ones.
Okay.
I know, right? What you doing? You doing really? Number 3?
Yes.
Okay, and then 4 is what the hell?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Be right back. Fear of missing out. Shake my head. FML. That one I'm not.
Well, it's a cuss word, expletive.
Oh.
So you might.
F my life.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, I know what STFU. Shut the F up.
Yep.
Okay. All right. And kill myself. Yes. Or kill yourself. That's so sad.
Yeah. Yes. 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 So thank you so much. Thank you for being brave. You don't necessarily win a prize, but you get bragging rights. Okay. So your prize is, yes, you are hip, you know the slang, you know the online terminology that the kids are using. So yes, someone said FOMO question mark. Yes, it's the fear of missing out. Okay, so if you missed that, yes. So hopefully you got that. WYD, what you doing, or FML, F my life. You know, some of these are innocent, you know, like the LOL, right? Okay, yeah, everyone uses laugh out loud. But what's concerning to me is when young people will write behind a post or a comment, KMS or KYS. That's when it becomes a bit concerning to me. Kill myself. Do they actually mean that they're going to kill themselves? No. Not necessarily, but sometimes some young people are using social media and social networks as a cry out, right? They're crying out. They're not all of them are, you know, just seeking attention, right? Some of them are really expressing pain that they're feeling, okay? And they're dropping subtle hints. So, you know, we want to make sure we look at the context in which they're sharing this. However, when they use KYS, kill yourself, some young people may receive that negatively. Some young people are able to brush it off like, oh, you want me to kill myself or whatever. Screw you, right? They're able to brush it off. But others who are already experiencing trauma, who are already experiencing depression or anxiety or have other issues where they've been bullied, cyberbullied, right? Some of them are just at their tipping point. And a comment like this can drive them toward self-harm. Okay. Now, some of you may have heard the news earlier. Some of you may have heard the news earlier that social media networks like Facebook and Instagram are looking at making it easier for you to hide the likes, right, on your post. We know that many of our children are seeking validation online. So they're looking at how many likes they get to whether they're valuable or not, unfortunately. I've seen some adults even do that as well. And I'll be honest, I've had to catch myself before, especially in business or when I've been operating my social enterprise. I'm thinking to myself, oh, I don't have any engagement on that post, right? Everyone's like, oh, engagement. And if you don't get engagement, then wow, you know, no one loves you, right? So we may say that in jest, but think about a young person who's been excluded, a young person who doesn't have anyone in their life really to tell them that they love them or to pay them attention. Maybe they're experiencing some exclusion even within their homes, right? Some children are experiencing trauma in their homes and they have no one to turn to, no one to offer them validation, and their esteem has hit the floor, right? So they look for likes. They look for people to validate them online. We'll get to social media challenges in a moment, but some young people have done the hot or not challenge. Now, you may have heard me speak about this if you were part of the Mentoring Girls and Inspiring Sisterhood in the Age of Bad Girls, Housewives, and Frenemies workshop. You may have heard me talk about, girls and how girls are seeking validation, and they're doing this hot or not challenge, and they'll post a picture of themselves and say, hey, comment hot or not. So if you're a teenage girl and you're already experiencing some sort of self-esteem challenges, right? And then you ask people to rate whether you're hot or not, it doesn't matter if you're physically attractive or not. Even if you're the most beautiful girl in the world, there's someone who's going to be a jerk and post on there not, just to mess with you. And some of our girls and boys will take that to heart. There are youth, no matter their gender, that seek validation online, right? And it just concerns me when I see young people posting hashtag KYS after a friend or after another young person has made a comment. If they don't like them, they post these sorts of things. So it can be really concerning. So just make sure that you're aware and you're alert. There are several different resources online that'll help you. In fact, if you've ever watched CNN, they actually have a parenting reporter. Her name slips my mind right now, but she covers the topic of social media and cyberbullying. And she did a report a few years back, and she put together this texting dictionary, like all of the online slang, the texting slang. There were like about 50 or more acronyms that parents should know about. So definitely make sure that you keep in touch with your children, ask questions, find out what's going on in their lives. And you'd be surprised at what they may share with you. Someone commented that their teen knows the definition for all of these. Yes, and many of them do, not just teens, even our children that are like 8 and 9 years old, 4th and 5th graders. Again, they're connecting and engaging more than ever during the pandemic. They're online constantly. They may be texting each other, so just make sure that you're helping them to stay safe and smart. Okay. We want to keep our young people smart online. So there's a little saying that we use in our Be Safe, Be Smart, Be Kind online assembly. And this may be helpful for many adults, because I know it's helpful for me when I want to say something that may be a little flavorful. So sometimes you have to really think before you hit send, right? I'm sure I'm not the only one. Maybe I'm the only one, right? But sometimes I've posted something and I thought, nope, I'm not going to do this. I really don't have to write everything, right? I don't have to comment or post everything, because what's in my head doesn't always have to be said. So I've retracted, I've deleted, and I've gone back, and sometimes there was a text that I was going to send, and I'm like going at it on the keyboard, like, teeth grinding, like, you're going to get it. And then I said, nope, erase, right? No drama. We want to be smart, okay? And smart includes not sharing inappropriate photos and videos and making inappropriate comments. Many adults are finding that their overexposure of themselves is getting them in trouble. We've all seen the headlines. People posting inappropriate videos of themselves, engaging in illicit behavior, people posting or sharing pornographic materials, people making racist, sexist, homophobic, and just downright mean comments. Many of them are getting canceled. Some are getting fired from their jobs. Others are missing out on opportunities. Some people are losing endorsements. A lot of celebrities, as we have seen, have lost endorsements. And sometimes the information that's shared may have been misconstrued, right? Not everyone who posted something meant to share it in a way that maybe some people misinterpreted what they were saying, right? It may have come across as sexist, or it may have come across as homophobic, right? In a lot of cases, it is hate speech. And in a lot of cases, people do share information that is very inappropriate. But sometimes, we live in a culture, the cancel culture, that sometimes they don't even give you a chance to explain yourself. So just make sure that you think about the content that you're sharing. And I advise young people to do the same. And there's a reason for this. Many young people will be applying for colleges and internships. So we want them to be smart so that their digital reputation isn't ruined before they even really start life. This is why online reputation management companies are growing and why people are spending money on these services. I don't endorse any particular company, but there's a company called Reputation Defender, and I saw that, yes, they indeed do help people of all ages, and including teens, help them to clean up their digital footprint. So we offer this workshop called Brand You, and it's specifically for high school and college students. And we explore how you show up online, right? With your digital footprint, like how far can your digital footprint take you? Now, for some people, their digital footprint can only take them to their kitchens. But for others, they can go all the way to Ivy League colleges, travel the world, because, they're posting good quality content. They're not engaging in the drama. They're not posting inappropriate content, right? So they can go very far with their digital footprint. Question for you all. You can answer this in a chat, that's fine. When was the last time you Googled yourself? And were you surprised with what you may have found online about yourself? I try to Google myself and the Empowered Flower Girl brand at least once a week. We do post a lot of content online, and it's mostly positive content. We try to post as much information that we can to help uplift and support young people. But sometimes you never know what may be happening in the digital world, people saying things about you, or maybe exposing information that you never even knew existed. So I think it's vitally important to Google yourself, even if it's just once a month. Okay, so Amelia says she Googles herself once a month. Yeah, I would definitely recommend that. Yeah, some people say never, or they can't remember. If you're looking to switch careers, or you're looking for a new job, or if you are looking to launch a business or a nonprofit or anything like that, you just want to make sure that you Google yourself to see what's out there. And for some people, nothing may show up at all. But that's not necessarily a good thing either, right? And we'll be talking about how to be kind online, because what a lot of, and this is for our young people, what a lot of college recruiters are looking at is what type of information have your kids been sharing? Have they been volunteering or doing good in the community? Is there news out there about some of their community service projects, right? Are they a talented musician or artist? Is there information out there, videos posted of them sharing their talents and gifts with the world? So we can definitely use social media for good. We just have to be safe and smart about it, right? Okay. Now this is interesting, Jamie. And I was going to bring this up. So Jamie said 2 years ago in a grant writing class, she didn't find anything, but she has a common name, and a man named Jamie Williams in Oklahoma has an extensive record. Yes, that happens as well. I Googled myself and I found out that another Rasheda Williams also had a criminal record. So it's good to, Google yourself, because you may wonder, well, why didn't I get that job? And they say, well, we looked and saw your record. You're like, what record, right? And they got you mixed up with someone who has the same name. So sometimes it's just a good idea to just Google yourself every now and then, just to check and make sure there's no information out there that could damage your reputation, okay? And while we're on the subject of, being safe and smart, in particular smart, I should say, we want to make sure that we're posting smart information, and our children are as well. Okay. And young people are really gravitating toward these online challenges, and they're participating in them. And there's record of this. I've seen on Google where young people are participating in some of these online challenges. And the challenge with the online challenges is that some of them can be inappropriate. Some of them can be dangerous and downright deadly. Okay. Yes, someone did ask, Carrie asked, how do you change misinformation that you might find when Googling? So sometimes that information can be, it can be altered. It depends. If you have a business or anything like that, you can change some of that information. Other times you may have to seek out, especially if it's damaging, you may have to seek out an online reputation management company that can help you with that, because sometimes it is a legal process, especially if there has been some sort of slander. There may be some legalities behind it. Other times you can have a DIY approach, do-it-yourself approach to search engine optimization. You can try to flood Google with positive news and information about yourself. So I would definitely recommend, like, if there's any criminal information or anything like that, you may want to check with an attorney to get that information corrected. Other times, if it's something like a criminal record, you'll want to definitely look into how you may be able to clear that up with your local authorities, and they can get that information removed. But I'm not a lawyer, but I definitely recommend speaking to one if there's information about you, especially if it's like libel or slanderous information, to get that corrected. There's also times where people had to get cease and desist letters because they found out that others have stolen their identities and or are using their same business name or organization name, and they're engaging in unlawful or inappropriate or reputation damaging types of behaviors. So you'll definitely want to look into that. Those are my recommendations. But back to these challenges, because before we break into the Q&A portion of the workshop, I want to talk about these online challenges because they are growing in popularity. And some of them have been really cool, right? Like the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. You all remember that challenge where people were pouring ice cold water over their heads, and they're daring other people to do it, and they record themselves and raising money for ALS. And I definitely think that was a great way to bring awareness to the disease, as well as to bring awareness to the organization and what they're trying to do. It was helpful and fun, right? But then there are some other challenges that just don't make any sense, right? There are some that you just think to yourself, like, who came up with this and why? Who was that board that came up with this, or who was that misguided? And unfortunately, it has led to, young people engaging in self-harm and even unfortunately has led to their deaths. You may remember the Tide Pod Challenge, where kids were eating Tide Pods. Some went to the hospital, some suffer from poisoning. It's, you try to educate your kids, and you would hope that they wouldn't engage in some of these, but sometimes, young people, they're at that age where they're taking all kind of risks, right? During their development, this, like middle school, high school, that's the time when they're going to be taking the most risks. They're going to be doing all kinds of things. I've seen ghost pepper challenge, people will eat the ghost peppers, and that's fine. But then I've heard that other kids eating Tide Pods. All right, is someone trying to speak there? Or you accidentally have your microphone on? Okay, there you go. Okay. Hello? All right. Okay, I think it stopped. But yeah, the Tide Pod challenge, to me, I just really didn't understand that one. The Tide Pods, they can look like candy, but in many cases, the teens, especially the teens who were participating, they knew it wasn't candy. They knew it was a Tide Pod, and they just wanted to see, oh, how far can I get through it before it starts to taste disgusting? So they're trying these challenges, but again, challenges like the Tide Pod challenge can be very dangerous, as well as the Blue Whale challenge. Many of you have heard of that. More sinister than the Tide Pod challenge, where young people all around the world have participated, and they're challenged to do dangerous things, and eventually it leads to them being challenged to do things like cutting, another self-harm, and in some cases suicide. There have been reports of a suicide. I don't know for sure if they can confirm a few of those that they were directly linked to the Blue Whale Challenge, but we know that there have been instances of young people participating in that challenge that have hurt themselves. And unfortunately, more recently, one of the challenges that has caught on over the last couple years is the TikTok Blackout Challenge. And for those of you who may follow Empowered Flower Girl on social media, I shared the sad story about the young boy in Colorado. You may have heard that news report a few weeks ago. He tried the TikTok Blackout Challenge. And for those who may not be familiar with this challenge, it encourages those who are on TikTok, who are participating in the challenge, to hold their breath or maybe asphyxiate themselves until they lose consciousness. So this boy, I believe he may have used a shoestring, but sometimes they'll choke themselves. They may hang themselves, things of that nature, hold their breath until they pass out. Unfortunately, this boy, just 12 years old, he did it, and he was brain dead for a few weeks, but recently, over the past few days, he did succumb, and unfortunately, he lost his life. I was very heartbroken to hear this story, and I was even more heartbroken to find out that he didn't make it. So rest in peace to Joshua, 12-year-old boy in Colorado. He died, unfortunately, from participating in this challenge. And also earlier this year, a 10-year-old girl in Italy tried the same challenge and unfortunately died. So these challenges do have consequences. And I want our children to be aware of those. Some challenges aren't necessarily dangerous, but they may be inappropriate for people of a certain age to participate. Some people have heard of the Busset Challenge, or maybe even the Silhouette Challenge. There's been a lot of controversy over those challenges as well, and the inappropriate nature of those for children, of course. So again, we want them to be smart about what they're posting, as well as the activities that they're participating online. We want to be conscious about what they're participating in online. And I definitely recommend to those of you who work with children in your classrooms and in your communities, just to make sure that you are aware of the types of activities they're engaging in. Again, remember, it's not snooping, it's proactive parenting, right? We want to be proactive and ask questions and be engaged with them. You know, we're not always going to see eye to eye with them on these things. You know, they may want to be on every social media app there is, but sometimes we have to step in and say, no, not until you're of a responsible age and you could handle it, or just sometimes no completely, right? As I mentioned earlier, young people are on some apps. You're supposed to be 18 or 21 and up to participate, and they're starting opening accounts at 12 and 13. So again, you just want to be aware of those apps as well as the messenger apps, not just the social networking apps, but the messenger as well as gaming apps. But not all young people are using social media to do harm to themselves and others, right? Many of them are actually using it for good and using it to make a difference in their communities, right? There are a ton of young people. I've seen stories about Generations Z and Generation Alpha just being so engaged politically, engaged in preserving the environment. You know, Earth Day is coming up. And so I've seen some young people share about their hope for the planet and how they want to change the trajectory of, you know, what's happening with our planet and climate change. So they are using social media for good. So I want to hear from you all. Okay. If you all don't mind, you can either post in the chat, but I would love to hear from you and see you. In fact, I'll share my video as well. See there, you can see me. I'd love to see you. I definitely would love to hear about, because I'm very interested to hear how some of the young people in your lives or students that you know, how they're using social media for good. So if anyone wants to share an example or two, that'd be great. We have a little time before we go into our Q&A and before we wrap up here. No one's students or kids are using social media for good? No way, come on. It's not all drama, is it? Okay, maybe people are being shy. All right, that's perfectly okay. Because I know a few young people who are using social media for good, and I definitely like to acknowledge them. Some Renuka wrote Connections. I'm not sure, is that an organization? Fundraising event. Oh, okay, I got it, for connections and for fundraising events. Sure, yeah, they're building connections, they're networking with one another, and they're starting movements. They are definitely starting movements. I read a news story last year, you know, when everything was just seemed like it was getting out of control, and when racial tensions in this country just seemed to have come to a climax, right? It just seemed like, okay, everyone was separated. People were just tired, and people were fed up with racism and with injustice, and wanted to march and protest for equality, right? There was a group of young girls in Tennessee. It may have been Memphis, I don't remember, but they were in Tennessee, a group of girls. They actually met on Twitter. They started messaging each other on Twitter, and they organized one of the largest peaceful protests in the nation by connecting online. They used Twitter to engage with one another, and they organized that protest and that march, and there were over 10,000 participants. So our young people are organizing, they're coming together, and they're standing up for justice, and they're using technology to do it. One of the organizations that I love, I had a chance to interview one of the co-founders of Volunteer Nation a few years ago, and I absolutely love what they're doing there. It's an organization founded in Missouri, and I was ran and it was actually founded, and it's run by teens and college students. And what they do is they share information about scholarships and grants, as well as volunteer opportunities that are available to teens and young adults. And they post this information daily, several times a day. They tweet. So you can follow them if you want to share some of this information with your students, if your students are working on community service projects and need some additional funding, or if you want to recognize, if you want to nominate one of your students or even your child to be recognized with an award. They often post information about awards that are available to young people so that they are recognized for good, right? We hear so many stories, and I know I shared stories about how young people are being inappropriate online, how they may be sharing inappropriate content and, you know, just acting a fool online, right? But most, I would say majority of our children are actually using the internet for good and to make a difference. Empowered Flower Girl, we distribute a newsletter called Be Empowered, and we recognize young people, girls ages 5 to 25, who are making a difference in their communities. We recognize girls from across the country and around the world who are using their gifts and talents to uplift and support their communities, but also those who may be teenpreneurs, social entrepreneurs, or even those who may have started a project in school that has branched off into their greater community. But we feature them, and we like to recognize them in the newsletter, but also through our social media channels, as well as offer them gifts for the amazing work that they're doing. So we like to recognize young people who are using social media for good. So if you have a chance, you know, just make sure if you're on Twitter, I know some of you said you're on Facebook more. They do post information, this organization, Volunteer Nation, they do post information on Facebook, but they're most active on Twitter. Okay, so it's called Volunteer Nation. Their website is volunteernation.org, and you can also find them on Twitter. Okay, so Heather said her son doesn't have social media yet, but he let me post his picture to encourage voting. See, yes, definitely. Young people are, no matter their age, even if they can't themselves vote, they are encouraging those who can to go out and vote, to participate in the political process. So yes, they're definitely doing that. So thank you for sharing that. And Renuka said, okay. Oh, that's sweet. Her daughter noticed a classmate stopped suddenly online communication, and she thought her classmate was feeling depressed with the COVID situation. So Renuka's daughter got all her friends together and they sent a care package to their classmate, okay, to cheer her up. So that's sweet. You know, young people just are coming together to support one another, you know, during this pandemic. There's a couple of girls that we will be featuring in our newsletter next week. They founded an organization called Nest for Us, and they encourage community service, and they are always on LinkedIn, they're on Instagram, always sharing videos of support for other young people who are giving back to their communities. They are amazing. These girls are such an inspiration. They're two teenage girls, and I am so excited. I can't wait to share their story and how they got started. But they share this information with young people and how they can be engaged in community service and how it can make a difference in their community. So I really love to see these positive stories about young people who are using social media for good. Because again, you know, we can get flooded with lots of negative energy, right? But there are young people who are definitely are using social media for good. Now, one parent said that they don't post their children's photos or anything online, and I definitely understand that. You're entitled to that. So, you know, if you don't post that, everyone has the right to do that. I know several friends, they won't post pictures of their babies until, you know, until they're older, for their children's protection. So, you know, do what works best for you and your family and what makes you feel safe. So I could definitely understand that. But, you know, when we share information about the girls for our She's Empowered section, and like many companies, you get media or parental consent forms. So, you know, for those parents who don't mind, you know, sharing information about their children and what they're up to, the positive things that they're up to in the world, you know, there's opportunities for them to get recognition for the good that they're doing, whether that's scholarships or grants or even media opportunities. So more kids around the world can learn about the things that they're doing. Now, earlier I mentioned an organization called Plan International. And Plan International, they actually released a report, and it's the State of the World Girls Report. They produce this every few years, and it's a report on how girls are doing around the globe. They also did, in partnership with the Girl Scouts a few years ago, they did a state of the country's girls, focused specifically on girls here in the United States. But the State of the Girls report found that 58% of girls were harassed online, the statistic that I shared with you earlier. And what they decided to do with the girls, this was actually girl powered and girl inspired, they came up with the idea of compiling a letter to social media network creators, so that they would take cyberbullying, cyber stalking, and other forms of digital harassment seriously. So when people reported that they were victims, that, you know, there weren't, the social network creators and administrators, you know, they want to make sure that they weren't just going to brush it under the rug or brush it off and not pay attention, right? They wanted people from around the world to sign this petition or sign this letter. And the campaign is called #FreeToBeOnline. You could look up that information, but it really explores girls and young women's experience of being harassed online. And as we know, youth of all genders are being harassed. Those who identify as LGBTQ, students who are Asian, students who are Black and Jewish have been experiencing increase in hate speech. So we know that they face challenges navigating online, but there are organizations that support them and want to help spread awareness about helping them to be free online, to be free to be who they are. So you can visit plan-international.org to learn more about the work that they're doing and how you can engage in the campaign should you choose to do so. So just a few tips, just a few quick tips before we go here. Remember I said proactive parenting. Okay, so anytime your kid says, if your kid says you're snooping, say no. What I'm doing is proactive parenting. Okay, so keep that in mind. But a few tips that we have here, and I'll get to a couple of these questions we have in the chat momentarily. But I definitely encourage you to have a conversation with your children, you know, about their social media interactions. Sometimes when we ask questions, we might be surprised. We can assume that they're not going to say anything. They're going to ignore us. I'm like, oh, what did you do today? Nothing, right? That's a typical response, right? Nothing, because they just don't feel like talking anymore. But sometimes if you ask them, you know, what's going on, you'd be surprised, especially if you ask, you know, with open-ended questions. You'd be surprised what they may share. There could have been a lot of drama, or there could have been a lot of excitement and awesomeness going on that particular day. So, you know, just ask questions. But I think it's important that we also are digital citizens, right? That we model good online etiquette, okay? Remember what I said, what's in your head doesn't have to be said. I have to remind myself of this at times, you know, I have to remind myself that, yeah, there's others watching, there are children watching, you know. Just because I feel passionately about an issue doesn't mean I always have to post a response. So our kids are always looking at us. So they tend to mimic our behavior. So we want to make sure that we're being a positive role model, but also set boundaries, right? We need to set boundaries with our children and inform them of the dangers that are happening online. And I know many of you are doing that. You monitor your children's online or social media use. You have their passwords, that sort of thing. But also there is a website called stopbullying.gov, and they have a ton of resources that are available to parents and families, as well as educators and others who work with children, that explain cyberbullying and how to report it. And you can report it anonymously. There are several states that have tip lines, and they give you additional information about, when is it just cyberbullying or bullying, but also when is it something more serious like hate speech? When does it just go from cyberbullying to cyberstalking? So they help you to make those distinctions. And one of the easiest ways to eliminate some of the online drama is to unplug, right? When it's dinner time, no phones allowed, right? You don't have to always be engaged and connected online. I know a lot of families that have told me, yes, when it's time for dinner, we all put our phones in the basket and we just sit down and talk and have a conversation. I know it's not always possible. Many of us are on the go, we're on the road. Some of us may not live in the same households as our children. So often, we don't get to sit down for dinners sometimes as a family, but giving your children and the young people that you love your undivided attention. And I've done that before. I've been guilty of it. My goddaughter's talking to me and I have my phone, and then I have to really take a moment and say, you know what? She's talking to me. She's talking to me, right? She sparked a conversation with me. So you know what? I'm going to put this phone down because I have a 13-year-old who actually wants to talk to me, who's asking me questions. So you know what? The least I can do is pay attention, right? So, this can help us if we're free of these distractions from social media and even the television. We could focus and we can learn about what's happening in our children's lives. Okay, so just a couple more things. So for those of you who want to know a little bit more behind the psychology of things, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a therapist, but there are some recommended readings out there. And this is one that I definitely recommend, and it's by Dana Boyd, and she's a social media scholar, and she has worked at Microsoft in their research department, and she has interviewed experts, psychologists, child development experts, as well as those with technology companies like Microsoft, where she's worked. And it's a great read. I definitely recommend it for those of you who are educators and you work with children every day, and you're trying to figure out, okay, the impact of social media and why are they online all day? And why won't they put their phones down? Why does it seem like it's glued or attached to their faces, right? So she gives a great explanation of how young people in the digital age use social media. It's become like their playground, right? I remember when we grew up, right, we had the mall. We went to the mall. I mean, there's still some malls left in the country, right? But we would go to the mall and engage and hang out. Right now, instead of the mall, they have Snapchat or they may have WhatsApp to communicate. So things have changed, things have shifted, and they're just using the technology they use the technology to interact and engage like we did, but in a different way. So it's not bad, not all the time, right? It's just different. So it's a great resource. And also, definitely, as I mentioned earlier, you have to check out Common Sense Media. Someone asked about online gaming again. Common Sense Media goes through just about every form of media you can think of. okay, from books to video games, TV shows, movies. They give reviews of all forms of media, and they'll let you know about the age appropriateness of various apps, and they will let you know about, give you more detailed information about these apps, as well as some of the online gaming tools. So some of you are really wanting to find out more information about online gaming. They will give you a rundown, and they'll let you know. Oh, they'll be honest. They'll say, "Oh, we rate this app a C minus. We rate this one a F plus." Okay, not an F plus, no. Maybe it gets an F minus. I don't even know that's possible, because it's dangerous and kids are exposed to way too much. Okay, so they'll let you know the ins and outs of these apps, and you can go through, and honestly, it'll take you a few hours to be able to go through all of the content on that site. I still haven't, but it's been so helpful in me learning about social media apps that I have never heard about. So much out there, but you can learn whether the content is appropriate for your child or not by going to Common Sense and looking at their reviews and looking at the data and the research that they've put together about these sites. So I want to make sure that we have an opportunity to keep in touch. Okay, so we're about to wrap up here. It's getting a little late, and I know that people have things to get back to, so I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but I wanted to make sure that you had an opportunity, if you wanted to reach out and get more information about our programs and some of the things that we're doing to help young people. Or if you have young people, remember I asked if there are young people you know who are making a positive difference in the world, who are using social media for good. If you want to share information about those young people that you may know, with their permission, of course, let us know. We would love to feature them in our She's Empowered column, but also we just want to hear any other suggestions that you may have, things that you may have thought about after today, things that you may want to share on how young people you know are using social media for good, or if there's a resource that you think others should know about. You know, we definitely want you to share that, and you'll have an opportunity in just a moment to do that. If there's something that you learned, you know, maybe you were online recently and saw something that, you know, you were just blown away by, you just have to share it. I will give you that opportunity in just a moment here. But, you know, be in touch. We are on social media. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, as well as YouTube and Twitter. Okay, we're at Empowered Flower Girl on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And we're at EFG Empowered on Twitter. Okay, so, you know, definitely keep in touch. And if you want to talk in further detail, there's my information there. There's my calendar. You can always go to our website, empoweredflowergirl.com, and schedule a time to talk. Okay, so before we get going here and close out for the evening, I just want to find out if there were any comments or advice. Maybe there's something that's working in your school district, or maybe something that you've tried at home that you just have to share with other parents or other teachers. If there's something that you want to share with us, you know, please take this time to do so. Or if you may have questions about something that was mentioned, you know, feel free to share that in the chat. So, you know, thank you. Some people were saying that was informative. I definitely want to be informative as well as interactive. And I hope that there was something that you may have learned today that you find useful and that you will be able to, you'll be able to implement and share with others that you may know, maybe others who may not be as informed and savvy as you are, who definitely can use some help in keeping their children and their families safe, smart, and kind online. So are there any questions, comments, or advice, or tips or tools that anyone out there would like to share? Okay, I haven't seen anyone. So Jamie, it doesn't look like, didn't see anyone unmute themselves or put their video on. So thank you all. I appreciate it.
Thank you for attending tonight. As Rasheda was going through the stuff, I was just like, oh, I'm thankful that I have goats for kids and not humans, because it can be a really scary world out there. I can't imagine having children, preteens, and trying to
But
navigate all this.
yeah, aren't goats kids too?
Yes, they are kids.
Okay. I was like, wait a minute. I think I remember that goats are kids.
They are kids until I think until they're about 18 months old, then they're considered adults. But
Okay.
my goats will probably always be kids because they act like. So anyways, thank you all for joining us. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me. In the coming days, you will receive an email from the Bridges Institute from Professional Development with your certificate for 2 CPE hours. So that'll be coming in the coming days. And Sylvia, would you like to say anything? Sylvia is the chairperson of our Quest committee, which is the committee that asked to make this happen. And so would you like to say anything?
Oh, first of all, I want to say sorry I joined late. I really wanted to make it from the beginning, but I was so glad when I saw that Jamie was recording it. I got stuck with a member, so I wasn't able to make it on time, but I know that I shared it and several people were really interested in attending. And from what I heard, from the little I got to hear here at the end, it sounds super, super interesting. So maybe we can get you back on another day once we figure out when would be a good time. But thank you so much for coming. But when you were saying that about social media and everything, I was trying to think and I couldn't think of anything. And I was asking my daughter, and I was asking her, like, what do you think? And she's like, no, she goes, we use it like for fundraising. So thank God, but different groups and everything. But see, this is what I deal with right here. Like, hold on, let's see. Right there. See?
Hi.
That is my senior.
Awesome.
Yes.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, she uses it for fundraising. And like I mentioned, lots of young people do use social media for good. And I am really honored to have had an opportunity to facilitate this workshop. I love facilitating this workshop. And I also learned a lot from you all, just looking at the comments and some things. There were a couple social media networks that I had never heard of or that I never used that people shared. So thank you so much.
Yes.
I appreciate everyone's time.
Now, thank you very much. Thank you. But yes, it's extremely interesting because at the elementary level where I teach, I see where social media is being used for different stuff, and so it's not, yeah. Parents need to be aware, just like you said.
Mm-hmm.
But thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, does anyone have any questions? Okay, Rasheda, well, thank you so much for your time. I enjoyed both of the sessions that you have done for us and hope to have you back in the future. And to that, I will say good night to everyone, and we will see you next time. Next week on Wednesday, we're doing goal setting and professional development plans. It will be from 6 to 8. Rebecca out of El Paso AFT, as well as myself, will be co-facilitating that as you all are moving in, those of you who are educators, moving into your end of year conferences and being able to take ownership of those professional development plans and goal setting. And so come back next Wednesday from 6 to 8, and we will go over that. But until then, we will see you. Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.